Back here at Griffith Field with the final score being Suffolk 14, Keene State 5. The Owls dropping their final game of the Myrtle Beach experience here, of the Ripken experience here at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And joining me now is the head coach of the Owls, Justin Blood. Coach, obviously not the way you want to end a trip down here in Myrtle Beach. Your team finishes with a 3-4 record this week. And I think things really just ultimately started falling apart in the second inning with Shea Zena, who had an encouraging first inning after an encouraging relief appearance earlier this week, but he just couldn't seem to find a strike zone. What do you think went wrong ultimately?
I think Shea's going to be fine. He did throw really well earlier this week, and it felt like he just started moving a little slower. Sometimes we can't find the zone, and we start trying to move a little more methodically to feel it out, and oftentimes the best thing you can do is just move faster. So I thought he lost a little bit of athleticism and a little bit of swagger, but he's going to be fine. But, yeah, that inning definitely was some of the undoing for this game, yep.
Find yourself down 6-0, and your team is playing catch-up the rest of the game, and once again just more opportunities where runners are stranded in scoring position, and things really didn't get going until – really once you reach their bullpen in the 8th inning. One thing you could say with today and this week is you've gotten a chance to put out a lot of different players, and I know you and your coaches are trying to figure out the proper combination for this team moving forward. Looking back on this week, what have you learned about this team ultimately so far?
I just said to the group that there were a lot of positives, there were a handful of negatives. And I think talent, ability-wise, there are combinations that we can roll out that we'll feel good about. And, I thought overall our pitching was pretty solid. But I think we need to commit to an identity as a group. Regardless of who's out on the field, who are we? How do we play? How do we communicate? When people think of Keene State baseball, what comes to their mind? And, I think this young group and even some of our returners, they need to work on focusing up on coming together and believing in that and sticking to it, regardless of who's in the lineup. And
is there a certain identity that you want this team to eventually embody at some point this season, or would you just rather have it be a identity?
Well, I think it's a consistent identity, right? So whatever it is, whether it's the scrappy or whatever different adjectives you can throw out there, we just need to be committed to being that team, that type of team consistently. And I felt like this week, the energy, there was way too many ups and downs. Depending on who was in the lineup, they were engaged or they weren't engaged. So I think accountability is a big one. We need to be a group that holds ourselves accountable to showing up on time, being prepared. Whether you're in the lineup or not in the lineup, being a great teammate. And we had some guys that did a really good job at that, and we had some guys that need to get better at that. So, it's the growing pains that it's not a shock to me. I think I said it in the halftime interview I did with you guys during the hoop game where, when the lineup starts getting written out, how do guys respond? And, ultimately this is a program goal, making the LEC tournament, changing things, getting us to a competitive place year in, year out again, consistently. And that's not done by 2 or 3 guys. It's done by a full roster. So we just have to be committed to that.
You fly back to New Hampshire tonight, and then Saturday it's off to RPI for a doubleheader there. But ultimately, what do you want your players to take back, or what do you want them to take out of this whole experience of this trip, not just with what was on the field, but having to also deal with everything that came off the field with it?
We know more about ourselves, so when we get home, we're going to have plenty on the offensive side and plenty on the defensive side and certainly on the mound as well to start honing in on. So once you get, 10, 12, 15 games into the season, the teams and the staffs that start making adjustments, those are the ones that are going to, see their season go on the trajectory that they're looking for and hoping for. So if we can make those adjustments, and we can commit to that identity, then I think we're going to be in a good place. If we scuffle with those things, then, we'll see some of what we saw this week, some highs and lows and ups and downs.
And that will do it with Justin Blood, the head coach of the Keene State Owls. Justin, it's been great working with you this week. It's been great watching the team, and we look forward to continuing to cover you and the rest of the team moving forward this season.
Yeah, Nick, thank you very much for coming down with us, and it was great having you here to cover us, and I appreciate that as well.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the trip home. That's head coach Justin Blood of the Keene State Owls joining us, and that will do it here at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for the Ripken Experience. Thank you to everyone for tuning in over this past week here on the Owls Media Network for all these games, and thank you to all the players and staff that have helped with these broadcasts as well. This is Nick Landi signing off on the Owls Media Network again. Keene State's next games will be on Saturday at RPI, a doubleheader against RPI, as Keene State will try to get back to 500, the first game at noon and the second game at 2:30 on Saturday. That will do it here for us here at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. This is Nick Landi signing off, wishing you all a great rest of your day.
Broadcast on the Owls Media Network. Please tune in to our next broadcast, and thank you for watching.